Hey guys, Tim here. Welcome back. Always look forward to talking to you all. ITIYL, episode 13, 13. They say 13 is an unlucky number, but I think this episode is going to be jam-packed. And I have a lot to talk about, a lot to get off my chest here, and I may lose a few listeners after this, depending on how open-minded some of you are. But I really look forward to discussing today's topic. So first on the agenda, over the last 2 weeks we talked about the gift card giveaway to celebrate 301 downloads. Now I just want to put this in perspective for everyone. So 2 weeks ago, just 2 weeks ago, 14 days, technically 13, because at the time of this recording, it's Thursday, May 3rd, and this will go live Friday, May 4th. May the 4th be with you. little thing for my nerds there. But anyway, so I decided to do a gift card giveaway for everyone who participated in just listening to the show. Anyone who wanted to email in, letting me know what their favorite episode was and why. I created more ways for people to participate as well. You could DM me on Twitter. You could also tweet at me on Twitter with the hashtag ITIYL gift card giveaway. And when I say ITIYL, it's the initials of the show. I'll talk if you'll listen, abbreviated as ITIYL, which is also the show's Twitter, ITIYL _ITIYL. Or people emailed in a little bit more conventionally to I'll talk if you'll listen at hotmail.com. Now, I want to say first and foremost, thank you so much. 300 downloads is a huge milestone, and I want to let everyone know that we are 2 downloads away from 400 downloads. Right now, at the time of this recording, we are at 398 downloads for the show. And I say we because collectively, you guys help the show. You guys give me your feedback. You guys, tune in. You guys download, and without someone to talk to, without someone listening, there essentially wouldn't be a show. We wouldn't have gotten this far. So 2 weeks, guys. I just want to put that in perspective. 97 downloads in 2 weeks. That has to be more than just people that I know. So that means I've gotten some new listeners. I may have even touched some people that I have never met before, interacted with before. So I say thank you. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for making the show what it is. And I look forward to seeing the show grow and evolve. Speaking of evolution, for the show, we have some phone interviews for the first time ever recorded for the show. We have 2 listeners who tuned in, and we'll get to that later. Also in the show, I want to talk about Kanye's crazy ass and what he talked about this week. And I also want to talk about Bill Cosby. So all that and more coming up on ITIYL. So just to start at square one here, the gift card giveaway. So thank you so much. I had a lot of people participate, and we do have a winner. We had enough people participate that I decided to go ahead and move forward with the giveaway. Now, the first week that I announced it, not too many people emailed in or tweeted in or participated in because they had a few misunderstandings as far as how to actually do it. They were adding apostrophes into the email address. Some didn't know what an underscore was to follow me on Twitter. So I had to clarify that a little bit. And now that that's been clarified, I decided to move on with another week, give people a chance to kind of dive into the the giveaway. And we do have a winner. So I'm going to announce the winner at the end of the show, and let the winner know how to get in contact with me to get the gift card giveaway. So really, really appreciate everyone participating in that. And hey, I would have done another one for 400, but we got there so fast. So tell you what, I'll sit here and say it now and make it official. Once we get to 500 downloads, I'll do another giveaway. And feel free to chime in, guys. If you like the whole gift card idea, it's something that's easy and cheap and convenient for me, especially if it's a digital gift card, because I could just email that to you. Or if you would like to see something else, I'll try to do something else if I can help it. Maybe I can like Groupon some tickets or something like that. Groupon is a really good source to get some pretty cheap stuff. So just let me know. But yeah, for 500 downloads, I will do another giveaway. I'll do another thing to show my appreciation. And I want to be clear, whether this show stops after a month or where it goes on for years and I become super duper big and the show takes off, nothing will ever be paid. You don't have to pay for these giveaways, guys. There was some confusion surrounding that too. People thought like, oh, I don't have the money to participate in a raffle. I don't want to buy into it. Look, totally free, completely free. The show's free to listen to. You already have to pay for your internet. You already have to pay for your data if you're listening to it on your phone. I'm not going to make you pay for something that, in my opinion, should be free. Hey, it's free for me to record this. It should be free for you to listen. So, and as always, I'll keep talking if you'll listen. So I look forward to saying who the winner was and what they said their favorite episode was. It might shock some of you. And I will get to that later on in the show. Now, just to move on to the next topic here, there was so much to talk about. Last week, we spoke about the impact that drugs had in a community, and we talked about the impact drugs may have had on us growing up. More specifically, I shared a story about my mother, about how she did some pretty heavy drugs before I was born. And my two older brothers, for a period of time, couldn't even live with her because it got so bad. But something happened, a spark happened, something set her off when I was born, as soon as she got pregnant with me. In combination with the pregnancy and in combination with my father, kind of broke her out of that negative habit. So when she had me, luckily, she put down a lot of the heavy stuff that she was doing. The 80s was a weird time too. A lot of things going on in the 80s. If you grew up in the 80s, or if your parents told you stories about their lives in the 80s, then you know exactly what I mean. Because you figure a lot of our parents were our age in the 80s. So just imagine the stuff that we're going through now at our age and how we're able to think and process thought. But back in the 80s, when there were a lot of new things being introduced for the first time. But when I was born, she put a lot of that stuff down, but she stuck with weed. She stuck with marijuana, with pot, whatever you want to call it. And I talked about how I could relate to a track off of J. Cole's album where he talked about coming home to his mom blasting oldies. Specifically, he said, Marvin Gaye's greatest hits. For me, it was Earth, Wind and Fire. I would walk home to, or it was, Gladys Knight. So a lot of the Rick James, especially Rick James. Oh, my mom loved her some Rick James. So I talked about how I could relate to J. Cole's track and his situation there by coming home. And, when there were oldies playing, especially if it was a Friday or Saturday night, I knew it was going down. So my mom didn't shelter me from her activities, but at the same time, she wouldn't do it out in the open. So she made it obvious that she was doing it, but she would stay in her room and do it. She didn't, come out and smoke in front of me and my siblings. But definitely I shared their story, and I also asked you guys' opinion on J. Cole's album, especially because he talks about the overglorification of drugs and the impact that it had on his life. And luckily, I had the privilege and the opportunity to speak to two listeners who shared their experience on what it was like growing up with drugs in their environment, in their community, in their household, and how it affected them growing up. So the first interview was Charles. You guys may have heard me mention Charles's name before. He's emailed into the show. Charles even participated in a $20 gift card giveaway. So shout out to Charles for doing that. The first interview, Charles, he talked about a lot going on within his environment. So I asked him a total range of questions. So, too much for the full interview to be on the show, but edited down. One of the questions I asked Charles was, what type of impact drugs had in his life, in his community, and in his environment, and how it affected his childhood. And he had a unique perspective. Here's some of what he had to say.
Hey, Charles, thanks for calling in, man. I really appreciate it. How could you relate to the whole substance abuse, drug abuse topic, and what was your experience like growing up?
Well, growing up in North, as we call it, Drugs was everywhere. Friends did it, family did it. I was actually one of few friends that actually never participated in it. And my reasons for that was based upon I saw them. I saw the hardships they went through with it. I mean, I also saw them and their enjoyment of it. But something for me is looking like a really expensive hobby. And that would have took away from my video game and comic book money. So that was something I definitely wasn't going to be a part of. And because it was like so much around me, that's the reason why I never wanted to participate in it. And it would have been relatively easy for me to get. Like, it would have been no challenge at all if I wanted to do it. But that was just never my thing because of these reasons.
So you mentioned that, you saw it around you. You saw a lot of people participating in it. And one thing I can totally agree with you is it was super easy. I knew several people that if that was something that I wanted to get into, all I would have to do is just ask. And then next thing you know, I'm a drug dealer. So what would you say prevented you from doing that? And you mentioned your comic book money, your video game money, but I'm sure you wanted to get money faster. You wanted to get more money to get more comics and to get more video games. So what would you say kept you away from the whole drug dealing mentality?
The earliest thing I can remember that kept me away from it was the hacking cough. Almost like a smoker's cough where people smoke cigarettes. But I noticed when people would smoke other substances, they would get that cough too. And I can remember being young and looking at them like, that looks like it hurts. It looks like you're choking to death, and yet you're still passing this thing around, and everybody's doing it. So I was like, that was a definite negative for me there. Then with my friends doing it, I saw how much money they were putting into that, and I'm like, that little small bag costs that price. That doesn't seem economical for me. I'm not doing that. And then another thing, or the third thing, I really just hated the smell. I was not a fan of it. So even when my friends would do it, I would be like, hey, guys, all right, I'm going home. Or get at me later when you're not doing this.
I also asked Charles what his opinion on KOD was. Now, Charles really doesn't listen to a lot of contemporary hip-hop. We're talking Kendrick Lamar. We're talking Logic. We're talking J. Cole. He doesn't listen to a lot of contemporary hip-hop. So J. Cole's album was the first full album that he's ever listened to, and he had a unique perspective on the album as a person who isn't a J. Cole fan. Listen to what he had to say.
For me, I'm giving the album a 7. The reason why I give it a 7 because I don't normally listen to that style of rap or hip-hop. So it was like a new experience for me. Like, I definitely enjoyed the beat, and I'm more focused on the lyrics he was saying in the background. Like, the song that he had about his mom was, like, so in-depth. So that song almost took me away from the beat and me listening to what he's saying. I was like, wow, you went through this and you did with that. So that was real personal. And his whole album came across to me as real personal. So because I'm not that big much of a fan of his, I wasn't sure if he was trying to be like overly deep on purpose, or is this how he normally is?
So what would you say to anyone who hasn't listened to it yet? Definitely something to tune into, or should they pass it by?
For someone that's never listened to it yet, I would pretty much give the advice is like, hey, are you okay with hearing a story over a beat? Because that's what it pretty much sounds to me. It sounds like throughout the whole album, he's telling a story of things in his life that he's been through. And if you're okay with hearing a story over music, then that's the album for you. Now, if you want to hear something like you can dance to or party to, that's not that album.
Good stuff there from Charles. Charles has also been listening to I'll Talk If You'll Listen from episode 1. So he's gotten to see the evolution of the show. He's gotten to see the improvements of the show. He's gotten to see some things that I need to work on. And he has some great feedback on one of the topics that he would like to hear in the future.
One topic I think is good to dive into is like relationships and relationships from a male's point of view. And the only reason I say that is because I've talked to like females or like things they expect in a relationship and their goals and their dreams, and then talk to men, and it seems like it's on a completely different wavelength. So maybe that type of conversation could, breathe the gap a little bit, hopefully.
That's a good bring up. But thanks for the feedback. Thanks for tuning in, Charles. And I really appreciate this phone interview. So Continue to tune in. I'll tell you all your friends about it, and I look forward to talking to you in the future.
Hey, thanks for having me on, and I wish you the best in the future.
Always good stuff from Charles. Hey, Charles, thank you so much for calling in. I really appreciate it. You've been a huge supporter of the show. I can't say that enough. From your emails, from your personal critiques, from the areas that you feel like I need to improve, and just being a general supporter, a genuine and a general supporter of the show. So I really appreciate that. And I want to take the moment to say one thing that not only Charles, but the next person that I had, the next listener that I had call in, have in common. And part of the reason why they're so close to me is they're genuine when they give me feedback. We oftentimes come across things that we want to do, whether we want to be an entrepreneur, or we want to run our own business. We want to start a new hobby. We want to get into a new career. We want to move to a new place. We'll always have pros and cons, and we'll always have two types of people that we need to stay away from. We have the over enthusiastic friend who sees no downside in anything, and they only tell you the pros, and they live in this fantasy world where only everything can go well, there's no downside, and they encourage all types of behavior. Bitter people usually have people like that who surround them, where they're super bitter, they're upset about maybe the way a relationship went, and next thing you know, they're surrounded by a bunch of bitter friends who tell them that everything is great, they made the right decision and nothing could go wrong. The other type of person you want to stay away from is a negative Nancy, who is always negative about everything, sees no benefit to anything, will always tell you the cons, and will just say that life is horrible, and they're like a total cynic about everything. Now, the reason I like Charles and the next listener, Ryan, one thing they have in common is how genuine they are in their feedback. When Ryan tells me that I need to work on pacing myself when I bring up a topic, I know he's genuine and he really means that. He's not just trying to find things. I remember episode, it was 2 or 3. I called Ryan. I asked him for his feedback. I said, hey, so far I'm new to this. This is something I've never done before. What can you tell me I need to improve on? He said, honestly, man, I can't really think of anything off the top of my head without sounding like I'm nitpicking. But, here's some things that you need to work on from kind of like a nitpicky standpoint. And he called out some stuff, and I've since addressed those things. But he was genuine in that, and I really like that. So shout out to Ryan. Now, Ryan also gave his opinion on last week's topics. He also Ryan grew up in an area, like you heard from Charles. Charles grew up in North Philadelphia. I grew up in Germantown. Germantown is right above North Philadelphia. Now, Ryan grew up in Mount Airy, the Mount Airy section of Philadelphia, and Germantown is right beneath or border right next to Mount Airy. Depending on who you ask, Germantown is also uptown section of Philadelphia. Some people, especially if they're from Mount Airy, may not consider Germantown uptown. Just West Oak Lane and Mount Airy is uptown. But regardless, Ryan shared what his perspective and what his viewpoint was like growing up in the Mount Airy section of Philadelphia. Here's Ryan.
Thank you so much, Ryan. I really appreciate you, first and foremost, not only listening to the show, but deciding to call in to share your thoughts and have your thoughts on the show for people to listen to and respond to in the future. So thanks for coming on.
No problem. Just like you had kind of mentioned in the first episode in terms of like how this whole thing got started, it's like it started with just conversations between, you and me. So, of course I had to, bless the mic, if you will. You know what I mean? So, yeah, definitely an honor, man. Thanks for having me on. So in terms of how it affected me, in my life growing up, not really so much. I grew up in Uptown, so that's, for people who are listening that are not familiar with the Philadelphia area, it's for the most part, it's a pretty good area. Outside of your normal potheads, I really didn't run into much. Of course, your occasional pass by or your interaction with maybe a crackhead or fiend, if you will, but for the most part, it's just they didn't really have a big influence on my life, at least not growing up. I did get introduced to it a little bit more personally, as I got older. It became more of an influence or more of I guess it was offered to me a lot more as I got older. But even when I was younger, I guess my mom did a good job of keeping it out of my life, you know.
I think that's awesome that Ryan decided to shout out his mom and give his mom props for protecting him and shielding him from negative habits and potentially saved him from a violent drug infested environment and behaviors. So shout out to Ryan. Thank you so much for that insight. Now, Ryan also gave his opinion on the J. Cole's album. Now, little insight here. Ryan is a huge fan of hip hop. Unlike Charles, Ryan does listen to new age and current music within the hip hop genre. The difference is here is Ryan also isn't a J. Cole fan. He separates himself from the J. Cole quote unquote fan base. And he has some unique things to say. Here's what he had to say about his review on KOD.
J. Cole fans, and I don't want to get into it now. I know we're limited on time. But J. Cole fans, man, you guys are tough on him. You guys are tough on him, man. This was a great album, and as you guys recognize that, you guys are heavy critiquers of his music. I guess as you should be though. But scale of 1 to 10, I give it 8.5 to a 9. I just give it a straight 9. I think it was a really solid album. It was really good. It was really impactful. I like albums that have a theme. His did. I'm also just getting into, I'm a novice with this, but I'm just getting into, visual art and how it connects with music. I'm just, I guess getting into the world and just exploring the world of how those two connect and intertwine. I didn't realize that they did, I didn't realize that they were as related as they are. And another great thing that I liked about his album was, and you pointed this out in your last podcast, was or your last episode, was how those two interacted. The album art was great. The theme of the album was great. Flow was great. He had great beat selection, so it was sonically pleasing as well. It's not like a Nas album. Yeah, sorry Nas fans, but it's not like a Nas album where his lyrics are great, but it's boring. I don't want to listen to it. You know what I mean? And then I think the last song, which I guess is getting the most attention, was impressive, in terms of how he didn't just beat you lyrically and beat you sonically and beat you in a song in terms of whoever he was going at. I really don't even know. I guess it was one of these guys, one of the, trap rappers where they really don't have much to say, but they got a really dope beat, which you have to appreciate all music for what it is. I think he did a great job in explaining, why at the end of the day you can talk your trash, but I'm the superior rapper, and gave facts on why he is the superior rapper and tried to give him a little bit of knowledge on top of it, and in a jaw-dropping way, because it's kind of like, it's like even listening to it, like, okay, like you're gonna outgrow this, or this isn't gonna be interesting in 2 weeks. But it's like, even hearing him say it is like, damn, it's like, well, it's like, you're right. Wow, how about that? So, but yeah, it was, overall, it was a really, really, really dope album.
Ryan has also been listening to the show since day one, and he also has a good understanding on some of the topics that we've discussed in the past. And I also asked Ryan what topic or topics would he like to hear about in the future, and he had a great answer. Here's what he had to say.
I would like your opinion more so, or not more so, but I would like to hear you get into, I want to say politics a little bit more. Now, I don't necessarily want to hear your opinion per se. I know that can be kind of a touchy subject sometimes. But just in terms of current events, that are happening with our president and even locally. I think that's something that we don't really focus on a lot. So maybe just a little mention of that. And another thing I'd like you to mention, another thing I want you to talk about that we discussed is a lot of the police brutality that kind of happens and goes on throughout the country. Just to shed a little bit of light about your opinion on that and how that affects our community. And when I say our community, I mean the community as a whole, and then the Black community as well. So that's what I'd like to hear you touch base on.
We noted, man. I'll actually try to implement more of the political opinion into the show in a very delicate way, because, like you said, it can be something really, really touchy. And my goal is to just encourage people to have an open mind. And if I can talk about something that can encourage that, definitely something to look forward to. But hey, man, I really appreciate you calling in. I really appreciate you listening. And I really appreciate you giving your thoughts so far on not only last week's show, but the show as a whole. So hopefully, I look forward to not only hearing from you again, but maybe getting another interview and have that on the show. So again, thanks for calling. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man, it's my pleasure. And congratulations on the show and all the success, man. I'm proud of you, man. And I wish you well. I wish the show well.
Thank you so much, Ryan. Thank you so much, Charles. Really appreciate you guys calling in. And this is going to be a weekly thing, guys. If I can get people to call into the show and give their thoughts and opinions on any episode's topic. Now, look, it doesn't have to be the most recent episode. Of course, I would prefer it to be, but it doesn't have to be. If you reach out to me via email or on Twitter and you say, hey, look, I want to say I have a thought about episode 9. I have a thought about episode 8. Feel free to, call in and give me your feedback. And I would love to share that. I would love to have it on the show. And I think it'd be pretty cool because I know a lot of you talked about wanting to email in. You just don't have the time because usually when you listen to the show, you're listening to it at work. You're listening to it on a car ride to or from work. You're listening to it, while you're performing tasks throughout the day. You're listening to it while you're out and about. So you may not have an opportunity to just stop and pull out your phone or pull out the laptop, pull out the PC, the Mac, to email into the show. So I totally get that. I totally understand that. So I'm trying to create new ways. Some of you don't have a Twitter or don't want to really be on Twitter to engage with the show on Twitter. And I get that. I understand that. And that's fine. So I figure hey, look, this is another outlet. This is another way for you guys to call into the show, engage in with the show, and express your thoughts and opinions. Just all you have to do is let me know, whether you tell me in person, whether you shoot me a text if you have my number, whether you email, whether you follow me on Twitter, the show on Twitter. Just let me know, hey, you want to participate in a segment I'm calling Idle Thoughts, and you just want to call in and you want to be featured on the show. Let me know. I'm going to try to do 1 or 2 a week. And I might have some repeat guests if I can't get any new people, or if someone is really that passionate about expressing their thought. Then of course there may be some reoccurring guests. But feel free, guys, and I'll be reaching out to you all too. I usually try to do these on Sunday, the Sunday after the show airs on Spreaker and iTunes and Google Play and Stitcher. I really try to reach out on Sunday. So I'll be calling people as well or texting people as well to see if they want to participate. But I really do appreciate Ryan and Charles so far. Now, for everyone who wants to hear some of the older episodes, I have been uploading them to YouTube. So far on the show's YouTube page, there are 4 of the older episodes. And the reason that's significant because my web host only allows 6 shows up at a time if the shows are going to be close to an hour long. So that being said, if you want to catch right now, episodes 7 through 12 are up. So when episode 13 goes up, this episode 7 will go off. And we have a lot of new listeners who want to kind of just dive in. The advice that I give to anyone who just wants to dive in is the show is basically Seinfeld. You don't really have to tune in to each episode to kind of know what's going on. It's going to be a new topic almost every week. I think I do a pretty good job of recapping last week's topics. And now that we have the Idle Thought segment, you get a better understanding of what last week's topics was anyway. Last week's topics were anyway. So you don't really have to start at episode 1, but some people are completists, and I admire that because I'm the same way, and they want to start from episode 1. I think another thing that's cool about starting from episode 1 is you kind of see the evolution of the show. You get to kind of see real time, and almost binge listen to where the show literally first started to what improvements and additions I've made over the course of, at this point, 13 episodes, which is 2 weeks worth. Wow, look at that. 14 days worth of episodes out. So you can go to YouTube, you can subscribe to the YouTube channel. And for the long-time listeners who want to re-listen to some of the earlier episodes, you can go on over to the YouTube channel as well. I'm also going to come up with something really unique to people who want to subscribe on YouTube. So that way it isn't a little too redundant. If you're all caught up and you're subscribed on Spreaker, on Stitcher, on iTunes or Google Play, and you listen to all of the episodes, or if you downloaded them and saved them to your phone already or PC already, you don't really have a reason to go and subscribe to the YouTube channel. So I'm going to try to think of something to make it worthwhile to anyone subscribing on YouTube. So feel free to stop by the YouTube page, subscribe now if you haven't already. And just like the show itself that's constantly evolving and improving, the YouTube page will as well. That I promise you. So I look forward to doing that. So feel free to stop over to YouTube, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and stay tuned for additional content. Now, in recent news, this happened last week on the day that I actually recorded the episode. I wish I kind of got a heads up on it, but Bill Cosby. How about that? Bill Cosby, a lot of us have fond memories of Bill Cosby, and a lot of us looked up to Bill Cosby in so many different ways, whether it be as a metaphoric father, whether it be as a comedian, whether it be as an entrepreneur or a philanthropist. You know, a lot of people looked up to us, especially if you went to Temple here in Philadelphia, especially if you were from Philadelphia. Definitely one of the people that you put in the same realm as the Will Smiths and the Kevin Harts and the Black Thoughts and the Roots period. People from Philly that kind of makes you proud from being from Philly, especially if you're in that same career field. If you're an artist, if you're in a band, if you're a comedian, if you are an actor, definitely made you feel a sense of pride when you hear people like Bill Cosby are from the same place that you're from. And I can honestly say that a lot of people have been disappointed about the final verdict for Bill Cosby and him going to prison. I believe the sentence was 30 years, something along those lines. And I don't have as much information about it as I should. I will admit that, but I will say this: it almost feels very unrealistic. It feels almost like not real to me. To even say out loud that Bill Cosby will probably die in jail is unrealistic to me. It's just like really crazy to me. I just can't even articulate my emotions when it comes to that. Somebody that you grew up watching, someone who has done so much for his field in comedy, and even in the world of sitcoms, is going to die in jail. Now, a lot of people have, and it's all over Twitter. Check out Twitter. Just search Bill Cosby, and you'll see it's like one of the first things that pops up. There are a lot of people out there defending Bill. I don't think I'll go that far in defending his actions. But what I will say is, as I want to speak to the men. I want to speak to the men, and then I have something to say to the women as well. Guys, just be careful on what you do and say, and make sure you have an understanding on what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. Not only just in the workplace, especially with the whole Me Too movement going, but just in life too. There was a period in time where I'm sure the young ladies that, were uncomfortable with Bill, they were at a point where they were. And I'm sure eventually after certain events, they felt like they were uncomfortable with Bill. And Bill should have had a radar or a desire to figure out, hey, what's comfortable, what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. So as men, we have a responsibility of reeling things in and making sure, because we dictate a lot of romantic and sexual environments. We dictate that. We're usually the aggressor. We're usually the one that moves that horse along when it comes to like having sex or having a romantic relationship. Men are usually the one that are like pushing that along. So it's up to us to have a firm understanding on what's appropriate and what's not appropriate, especially in the workplace. Now, women, and I might get beat up for this, I might get bashed for saying this, but this is really important. Women, you all have to do a better job of explaining to men what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. Now, I'm not talking about the guys who want to catcall you or be disrespectful, shout at you while you're walking up and down the street, touch you at work, try to grab your dress or grab your hair or, make overly obnoxiously inappropriate comments at work. That stuff is obvious. A guy shouldn't be commenting on your body, on how sexy your body is at work. I mean, that's just inappropriate. And that's why I say, men, we need to take a better responsibility of understanding that is inappropriate. Even if you think it's okay, it's not. But women, what I'm specifically talking about, I'm talking about the guys that may say things with a genuine lighthearted nature. I'm talking about the guys who genuinely don't understand what's going on. I'm talking about the guys who genuinely mean no harm, but things just kind of have, going that route. You just got to check them. If they send you a text message, if they send you, an email, if they make a comment, you just have to check them, and you'd have to do a good job of checking them, because usually the guys out there who do stupid stuff, and they do stupid things, are usually doing it because women let them get away with it. And for the women that don't let them get away with it, shout out to you for being strong. And, the guys are just being knuckleheads, and they're just being goofballs. I was talking to a guy who works at a bank, and he said that he lives in kind of like fear almost, where he doesn't know what's appropriate and what's not appropriate to say to a young lady. He's at the point where he just doesn't know. He doesn't know what's appropriate. She wore some makeup and had on a nice dress. He didn't know if he could say, "Hey, your dress looks nice." He didn't want to come off as being making a sexual innuendo, or trying to be inappropriate. And there's some people who are joking about it, who are just saying, "Oh yeah, you can't even blink at a woman nowadays." And there are some men, believe it or not, who are actually genuine when they say that. They're like, "Hey, I'm genuinely scared. I don't know what's okay and what's not okay." So men, we'd have to do a better job in trying to figure out what's appropriate, and communicating with women like, "Hey, is this okay?" And women, you need to do a better job of communicating what's not okay. I can't tell you how many women will just straight up say men wouldn't have anything to worry about if they would just be respectful. But they don't really go into what that is. Respectful can be a dynamic definition. So some people who are older, they're 20 or 40, 20, 30, 40 years older, somebody my age might want to address them as Mr. or Mrs., Mr. Smith, Mrs. Smith, and they're okay with that. Some people 30, 40, 50 years old are like, "Hey, look, man, just call me John." They don't really care. They don't want to, they don't. So what's respectful and what's disrespectful can differ from person to person. So it's very, really important that women, if your argument is, "Oh, men just need to not be slobs and need to be respectful and not to be perverted jerks and yada, yada, yada." Yes, I agree with you, but you need to explain what that is, instead of just lashing out and being very judgmental and accusatory and just saying, that's just such a blanket statement. That's like me telling you, that's like being in a relationship and the relationship isn't working out. So you tell your partner, "You just need to do better." And you don't tell what that is. You don't say what that is. You just say, "You need to do better." Well, what do I need to do better? Do I need to take you out more? Do I need to spend more time with you? Do I need to be a better listener? Do I need to, spend more time with the kids? Do I need to involve your family in more activity? What do I need to do? What's better? So for all the women out there just saying, "Oh, it's men don't have anything to worry about. They just need to do this." Please just explain what that is. So that way there's more accountability for men. You gotta understand, it's a revolving door. It's a one hand washes the other type of thing. Men, we need to do a better job of being appropriate, especially in the workplace. And women, you need to do a better job of defining what respect is for you, and defining what being not being a slob is for you. Because if you let the guy get away with it, it's going to progress and progress and progress until it gets into a situation that there's no turning back from, and nobody wants that. So depending on who you ask, an unfortunate situation for Bill Cosby. Some people have zero sympathy. Me personally, I don't have any sympathy for what he did. I don't think you should take advantage of anybody, regardless of your gender, regardless of whether you're a guy or a woman. You shouldn't take advantage of anybody. I've turned down sex before when the other party was too drunk. Well, I feel like, hey, look, they're drunk. I know they're attracted to me. I know they're sexually attracted to me. And I know this is probably something that they want to do, but I don't feel comfortable doing this. And I kind of, I just said, hey, I'll set them up with some water in a bucket. I'll lay them down on the couch and go that route. It's one thing if you've already had a sexual relationship and then you're under the influence of some sort of narcotic or alcohol. That's a different story because you and that person have treaded down that path in a sober state before. But if this is your first time with a person, you give them some sort of, in Bill Cosby's situation, Quaalude or some sort of narcotic and it puts them in a state where they can't fend for themselves or they can't make rational decision or choice. I have no sympathy for that. That's messed up. You have to work on your game, player. If you need a drugger, then you shouldn't be pursuing that. If you got a drugger, don't hug her. You know what I'm saying? But no, seriously, no sympathy from Bill Cosby in that regard. Where I do kind of feel bad about the entire situation in and of itself is, the women chose to go home with him in certain situations. Like I said, I don't know every situation in full detail, but I know in certain situations, certain women, they put themselves in that environment. I try not to put so there have been situations where young ladies have said, hey, can I come over? And I knew the situation would be bad for them to come over. So I didn't put myself in that situation. I knew some guys who are into like selling drugs or into like violent things and like, hey, do you care if I come over with so-and-so? I'm like, no, because I don't want to create the opportunity for something bad to happen. So I don't have, I do think that kind of sucks that, the women who put themselves in that environment and put themselves in a situation that created that opportunity for something like that to happen didn't take more accountability or responsibility. I saw one argument out there. One young lady friend of mine on Facebook actually said, hey, you can't take the money and then turn around and scream rape. And the comments on that thread, boy, I tell you, you had a lot of people saying that she was crazy for saying that. But a lot of people missed the point. What she was getting at. She was saying by simply taking the money and agreeing to shut up, by being bought off or settling and agreeing to agreeing on an agreement of discretion for what happened, you're condoning the behavior. Whether you believe it or not, you're condoning the behavior. Now, of course, someone could be scared, someone could be fearful. But you have to realize that those two things are mutually exclusive. You can be fearful about what happened and you can be embarrassed about what happened, but you're still condoning the behavior. So although someone can understand why you choose not to say anything, of course, they're not the ones that have to live with the embarrassment or the publicity and coming out saying, hey, I was molested or I was raped or I was taken advantage of. They're not the ones that have to deal with that. The person who was molested or taken advantage of or raped does. So I totally, it's understandable, but you have to realize that in your silence, you're still condoning that behavior because you're saying indirectly, hey, it's okay for you to behave this way as long as you give me money to shut up. Or it's okay for you to behave this way because I'm too embarrassed to say anything. So you have to realize that, that's what this young lady's point was. It's like, hey, look, you can't sit here and take the money and then, turn around and say, hey, that was wrong. You know what I mean? But on the flip side, just to be clear, rape is wrong. Obviously it's illegal, but for anyone sitting here thinking like I condone anything that Bill has done or anyone who falls, Harvey Weinstein or, anyone who has fallen into that, category, definitely not condoning that. And it's definitely wrong. And you should definitely, be more aware of your actions. Speaking of being aware of your actions, Kanye West. Now, I think I might lose some listeners after what I say, what I'm about to say. But all I'm going to say is just hear me out. Hear what I have to say and I would love to get you guys' thoughts and opinions. I'm looking forward to the next phone interview I do about this topic. So Kanye is all over the news. If you don't know already, just simply Google Kanye West and click on the news part and just click the first article. He's been in the news lately for siding with Trump, saying Trump is one of his favorite people and saying that he loves Trump. And he recently this week said that, slavery was a choice, or at least he implied that slavery was a choice by saying that, we were as black people were enslaved for 400 years. It sounds like slavery was a choice. Now, I think you have three types of perspectives on this stance. You have the extreme standpoint of that, light the torches, get the pitchforks, and hunt Kanye down because of what he said. And a lot of people who, that's a sensitive topic for them. Especially if the hoteps and the people who went to historically black colleges or universities, they tend to be on the extreme side of things where they're like, let's hang Kanye for what he said. He needs to be crucified. Then you got the other end of the extreme where you're like blindly, loyally following Kanye and see nothing wrong with what he said. And you're justifying what he said. You're defending what he said. And you're saying there's nothing wrong with what he said. And, if you think there's a problem with what he said, then you're living in a world of hate and you need to open up and be loved. Then there's the third standpoint of kind of in the middle where I am, where you don't really care. You don't care. That's the viewpoint I want to dive into, more specifically here. And for all of the hoteps, for all of the people who, want to combat this viewpoint, bring it on. That's what I say. I'm ready for the debate. I'm ready for the discussion. Bring it on. First things first, Kanye is definitely wrong in the sense of when he says slavery is a choice, was a choice. Definitely wasn't. He did not do a good job. I think Kanye in general does not do a good job of articulating his thoughts. Me personally, I just don't care. For all the people who want to argue this point, I'm ready, but I just don't care. I just don't care. And it's just really, I want to talk to people. Like when people hear things like this that happen, like the whole Starbucks thing or this thing with Kanye, I just want to ask them, like, why do you care so much? Why does it bother you? Now, let me be really clear. And I think it's sad that I have to say this, but let me just say this. You're entitled to your own opinion. If it gets you upset, that's your right. That's fine. I'm not saying you shouldn't be upset, and I hope no one tries to pervert my opinion or pervert my words in saying that I'm saying you shouldn't be upset. That's not what I'm saying. If you want to be upset, if you feel like you need to be upset, be upset. Okay, that's your right. Whatever. You don't want to shop at Starbucks, don't do that. If you don't want to listen to Kanye anymore, don't do that. That's fine. That's your right. But the people that are upset on this level, like, I can't believe he said that, I'm so upset and angry. Why does it bother you so much? What is this thing that I feel like some people just want to be mad because it's cool. I feel like some people just want to get on social media. They just want to get out there and say Kanye was crazy. Kanye is easy because that's easy to say, right? Kanye's crazy. He shouldn't have said that. He shouldn't have said. Let me get clear. He shouldn't have said it. But just some people just like to be mad, and some people just want to get up there and just be this like social justice warrior. And it's just like crazy to me that people just can get so upset on something that doesn't have anything to do with him. If you get on social media now, and sad to say, it's mainly people in my generation, but if you get on social media now, or if you look at, a lot of the media now, and you figure that the people talking about it and the people were upset about it were the ones that just got out of slavery themselves. You would think they fought for civil rights. You would think that they were in the Civil War. You would think they were out in the fields picking cotton, and just all of a sudden just stopped. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy to me. Like, you would think that they were the ones that's in the fields and got beaten and whipped and then had salt thrown on their wounds. You would think that they were the people who had their wives raped in front of them and was forced to father a child out of wedlock. You would think that they were the ones who couldn't sit or use restrooms in certain areas because of, segregation. You would think that they were the ones that got lynched. You would think it was them. Like, if you were alive in 1847 or something crazy, and then you were put to sleep, you got the Captain America treatment, and was frozen in ice, and then you got unthawed, and the first thing you were put in this room, and the first thing that they showed you was a transcript of, because it can't be a laptop or social media. You'll probably lose your mind. Like, what is this witchery, this witchcraft, this device that's glowing? No, but you would, if they showed you a transcript, gave you a piece of paper of a transcript of some of the posts that's going around, you would think like, oh, this person was out in the fields with me. That's what you would think. You would think that. And it's crazy to me, like the extreme, like how, okay, you can be passionate about your opinion, because clearly I'm passionate about mine. But just like, you would think that these people were out there with them. You would think like, oh, this guy was out there with me too. And it's just simply, it's just crazy to me. Another thing that bothers me about what Kanye said and the aftermath of it, I think people want to be. So first things first, this isn't to take away anyone who's experienced any malicious racist act, or anyone who has experienced anything derogatory due to their race or disrespectful due to the color of their skin. I don't want to diminish your experience, but I hate the people, and it's usually the people who haven't had it happen to them, who perpetuate this narrative that black people can't go anywhere without something racist happening to them. I want to sit here and say that I haven't knowingly experienced any racist thing anywhere. I've had only great experiences with white people or people from any other race. I've never been anywhere with any of my minority friends who've experienced anything because of their race. I haven't been discriminated, again, knowingly, because of my race. And it bothers me so much when people like me who haven't experienced anything like that get on social media, get in front of a camera, get on YouTube, go on wherever, and they sit here and perpetuate this argument and this narrative that black people are still enslaved. Like, yes, racism still exists. It will always exist as long as there is a human being in the universe. Racism will always exist, period. Is there prejudice? Absolutely there is. There has to be, because we have a brain. There will be prejudice. Are there certain parts of the country that, you wouldn't want to walk through? Yes. There's certain parts of Pennsylvania, accurately named Pennsyltucky. There's certain parts of West Virginia. There's certain parts of Alabama. There's certain parts of South Carolina that, yes, as a black man, you do not want to trek through those places. Absolutely. But if you talk to people, and again, I say very, very, with so much disappointment in my soul right now, that people in my generation who are like perpetuating this argument that we go to the store and we're checking out in a grocery line and the white cashier is like, I don't want to take your money because you're black. Or we're trying to hail a taxi and, the taxi doesn't want to pull over because we're black. Or we called an Uber and the Uber saw our pictures like, oh, that's a black guy. That's a no. And just declined our ride. Or we want to go get on a ride at Six Flags and they're like, oh, nope, sorry. You have to be this tall and this color to ride this ride. No, that does not happen on a daily basis. Has that happened to people? Absolutely. There's too many people on the face of this planet to sit here and say something like this doesn't happen to somebody somewhere. I'm sure that this has happened to some people. Hell, it may have even happened to some listeners of the show. I'm sure there may have been a situation that you've gone somewhere and you may have been discriminated against due to the color of your skin. But it does not happen every day. It does not happen every day to you. It may happen every day to someone somewhere, like different people, but it doesn't happen every day to you. It just bothers me so much because you have people out here who aren't racist, who aren't prejudiced, who get treated like they are racist because of this narrative that's being like put out there. And it just really bothers me. I had somebody say, if you agree with Kanye says, you're a white supremacist. Like, what the? Whoa, that went from 0 to 100 really, really quickly. It's like crazy to me. Was slavery bad? Yes. Was slavery a choice? Absolutely not. You know, it was either death or enslavement. So I guess technically, yeah, you could choose if you wanted to die. I mean, from that regard, sure, slavery was a choice, but no one wanted to be a slave for the most part. You know, no one wanted to be in that situation. No one wanted that. You know, everyone wanted to be free. Everyone wanted to be a free thinker. I think the problem here is, and it really takes someone with a really open mind to see this. I think the problem here is Kanye doesn't know how to articulate his thoughts. Kanye doesn't know how to properly express what he means and how he means it. I think Kanye has so many thoughts going on in his head at one time, and he just wants to get them out, that the filter isn't there. And I think that and let me be clear, I'm not defending him at all. I'm just giving my opinion on why he says some of the crazy stuff that he says. I think that like he has these thoughts, and if you ever listen to Kanye, you'll hear so many different tangents of thoughts that have nothing to do with each other. And you're kind of going like, and then like for like a period of like a couple minutes, he'll go like, he'll make sense. And then like next thing you know, he's talking about listen to the kids. Then he's saying pray for the parents. Then he'll say pray for Paris. And then he'll go from Paris to saying it's all about love. We need to love. And like he'll make all these individual points that by themselves, standing alone, may, and I emphasis on may make sense and may be okay. But when you put it all together, it's like, Kanye, what the hell are you talking about? So before you jump on the I'm angry, burn Kanye bandwagon, just try to attempt to see what he was trying to say and then be mad versus just being mad because it's cool. That's the cool thing to do. For all of the people who are defending Kanye and sit here and saying that, oh, he's just depressed, he needs help, we need to defend our black men, blah, 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 blah. You need to wake up and smell a coffee. There's something clearly going on with you in the sense that you choose not to. You're just as bad as the people who are jumping on him. Let me be clear. The people who are defending him without a shadow of a doubt, without even considering what he said, are just as bad as the people who want to see him burned and crucified because both parties aren't trying to figure out what's going on. One just wants to defend him for whatever reason, and the other people just want to be mad and just want to just say that whatever he's saying is horrible because they just want to be mad. So I encourage you to just free thinking, have an open mind, try to consider what he meant to say before you make your decision. Listen to what he said, digest it, translate it, and then go, okay, I want to be mad. Or listen to what he said, digest it, translate it, and say, you know what? No, I'm not going to be mad at him. I'm going to defend him. But at least you thought about it. Another thing about this that really bothers me, and I'll try to wrap this up after I say this. It bothers me. When I say I am so ashamed and so disappointed about the way my generation responds to people who has different opinions, I'm just so disappointed. I don't know why, and I would love to. I'm going to ask this on my next phone interview. Hopefully, I'll have some good feedback. I want to know why our generation just can't respectfully disagree. Why do we have to berate the person? Why do we have to insult the person? Why do we have to be disrespectful when we come across somebody who has a different opinion than we do? So let me be here and say I'm not this like guy who's like constantly in the tabloids and on TMZ, who is constantly following the celebrities' whereabouts and what they're doing, what they're saying. That's not me. I usually find out from like just scrolling on Facebook, or like I'm on Twitter and I see something on the timeline and I'm like, oh, what's this? And then I'll research it a little bit more. So at first I didn't know about this whole Kanye thing. I saw one of my friends on Facebook post 400 years, slavery lasted for 400 years. It sounds like a choice to me. But he put it in quotation marks, indicating that that's not his thought. That's just someone else's thought. I didn't know Kanye had said that at this point. So I looked at that and I go, wow, that's pretty thought provoking. That's all I said. I didn't say I agreed with it. I didn't say I disagreed with it. I just said it's thought provoking. And I mean that. The whole topic is thought provoking. It makes you think like, wow, whether the thought process is, why did he say that? Whether the thought process is, hey, I agree. Whether the thought process is, no, it absolutely wasn't a choice. Here's why. It still encourages thought. It still provokes thought. And that's what I'm all about. I'm all about thought-provoking environments and thought-provoking conversations. There's somebody, after I put that, there's somebody on that same comment thread that indirectly said, they didn't have the balls to say it to me directly, because if they did, they would have got it. But they said anyone who agrees with this or sees nothing wrong with this is clearly a white supremacist, and it's a complete absence of thought. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, wow, this is where our generation has come to. Our generation is in a position and at a point where if someone has an opinion different from ours, if someone says something we don't like, we attack them as a person. Instead of challenging the opinion and encouraging a thought-provoking, there's that phrase again, a thought-provoking conversation, a thought-provoking back and forth on, hey, provide me a little insight on why you feel the way you feel. That's my whole thing about the whole Kanye thing. For all the people that are upset, provide me a little insight on why you feel the way you feel. Provide me a little insight on that. Let's have a productive conversation. Let's have a little back and forth on why you feel this way, why you think this way. No, they automatically resort to, oh, let me berate you as a person. Let me be disrespectful. Let me attack your character, and let me attack your intelligence and your way of thinking because you have a different opinion from me. So this is a question for you guys out there, and I hope to hear from you guys. Why do you think that is? Why do you think our generation can't sit here and just have a thought-provoking conversation? Why do you think we have to be so aggressive and so derogatory? Why do you think that is? It just really bothers me, and I don't agree with that. And I really hope that we can move past that eventually. Maybe when our generation gets older, we can maybe address it. But I think it's definitely something that I'm tired of seeing. Definitely tired of seeing it. But going on a lighter note, going back to the raffle. So just to announce the winner of I keep saying raffle, but giveaway. Going back to the giveaway, I would like to personally congratulate Amanda, aka Black Cat, on Twitter. Tweeted into the show with the hashtag ITIYL gift card giveaway. She said she really liked my podcast episode about nerd culture and its relation to the Black community. She says it's something that needs to be discussed more, and she's glad that I talked about it. Well, I'm glad that you participated in the gift card giveaway, Amanda. I'm glad that you tweeted and shared your favorite episode. And yes, I agree. It was definitely something that needed to be addressed, and I'm glad that you feel the same way. So that was the gift card giveaway, guys. Again, there will be another one at 500 downloads. I really look forward to hearing you guys' thoughts. And don't wait for a giveaway to share your thoughts. Feel free to reach out to me. Again, that's ITIYL if you'll listen at hotmail.com. You can follow me on Twitter at ITIYL_ITIYL, or on Twitter. The Twitter's logo is the show's logo. And finally, you can head on over to the YouTube page, subscribe on YouTube, and feel free to leave a comment under your favorite episode, or even just an episode period. Leave a comment on what your thoughts are and what your opinions are on whatever the topics are, and I will respond to you directly. In the meantime, everyone, thank you so much, as always, for tuning in. This always is so much fun discussing these thoughts and having these topics with all of you. And one last thing I wanted to add in here before I make my exit. I shared something really personal last week, like I mentioned earlier in the episode, and like Charles mentioned, and a few other people mentioned, it was a very personal side of me, and a lot of people like that, and they like the fact that I opened up. So I'm going to start a new segment called What I'm Up To, and it's just where I share some of the things that's going on in my life, and if you all have some thoughts or topics or feedback on what's going on in my life, and just to share on what you think I should do or how I should approach it, I would like to hear from you. And then finally, I'll be asking you guys, what are you up to? What I'm up to this weekend, I'm actually going to go see Avengers Infinity War. I'm so excited to see it. I'm going to go on Sunday, and I can't wait. I've been dodging spoilers like the Matrix. It's just been crazy. It's been like a minefield out there. Even YouTube is trying to trap me by showing me like, Easter eggs and spoilers and stuff, and I've just been trying my best to avoid that. So I'm going to go and check that out this weekend. I also got a feedback from another listener by the name of Jose. Jose is a friend of mine. He's a listener, also a fellow nerd, and he says he listens to a lot of podcasts, and some advice he gave to me was to get a better microphone. He says it kind of sounds like I'm a little muffled or I am inside of a box, and I took that feedback to heart. All of the stuff that I'm using so far is free. I didn't pay for anything. This podcast isn't generating any source of income for me. So anything that I decide to pump into it, it'll be out of my own pocket, and I'll have to budget for it. Just like the gift card giveaway, that was out of my own pocket. That wasn't any revenue that I earned from the show. So everything that I'm using is free software, free hardware. But he mentioned that the microphone quality could be better. So because this is a hobby for me, I didn't take it too seriously to the degree like, hey, this isn't a source of income, but I do take it seriously enough to where I want you guys to have a good, solid experience. So I'm actually looking into some microphones. I looked on YouTube and saw some preferred microphones, and one of them was the Yeti Snowball Ice microphone, and it's pretty inexpensive. It's actually on Groupon for $50, so I'm actually going to purchase that, and it's a plug and play USB microphone, and apparently it's really good. So I want to check that out. I'm gonna get that, and hopefully that'll increase the quality for not only Jose but for everybody else. And as you all know, I record in my kitchen, on my kitchen table, so I'm going to look into getting some soundproofing foam and maybe moving this to another part of the apartment and see if I can increase on the audio quality. Even in this episode, you guys won't hear it because I'll try my best to edit it out. But even this episode, there were ambulance sirens going by. There were police sirens going by. People, of course, it's warm now, so people were driving by with dirt bikes and motorcycles. When I first started, there was someone cutting grass outside. There was someone with a loud muffler driving by. So if you guys catch some of that in this recording, I do apologize. I'm kind of working with what I got here. But I'm going to try my best to edit some of that out. But finally, I'm going to look into getting my passport because I actually want to go outside of the country and have the ability to go outside the country. So I'm going to get my passport. So I'll keep you guys up to date on that. But yeah, new microphone, seeing the Avengers next week, this weekend rather, and checking out how to get my passport. So that's what's going on with me, guys. Tell me what's going on with you. What are you up to this weekend? What are you doing? And what will you be doing in the coming weeks and months? I'd love to hear from you. Feel free to chime in on the different ways to get in touch with me. On that note, guys, I will let you go. I'll get going. Time for me to skedaddle. I always enjoy talking to you all, and I look forward to seeing and hearing from you guys this week. In the meantime, I'll keep talking if you'll listen. Take care.